Hey guys, I'm coming from the future with one thing to say. If you need to choose just one round to watch today, go right to round 4. It's a roller coaster of emotions. Just saying. Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. This is MahfuzVanGogh, your dredge guy, and today we continue our saga, trying to find the best dredge deck in Legacy. And soon we'll do the same in other formats. Well, in the last chapter, we had the same configuration in our 60 main deck cards, but we are trying to evolve our sideboard, considering the decks that we are fighting here on Magic Online. So, considering what we saw last league, I just don't think Ichorid belongs to this deck anymore. We did try to play Ichorid. It has its moments, but lately I always want another Poxwalkers instead of Ichorid. Poxwalkers is just an amazing card, but Ichorid maybe some moment in the future can have just one single spot in the sideboard. But so far I kind of want to test 3 Poxwalkers back. So we are back to the same main deck configuration than or compared to our first chapter. We still have MahfuzVanGogh, Satoru, Thassa's Oracle, and Cabal Therapy, all of the combo options, all of our best enablers in mixed, right? We have 4 copies of Faithless Looting because it is just so good, but we have 3 Careful Study, 3 Otherworldly Gaze, and 2 copies of Breakthrough. LED, of course, in an all-star in a turbo-esque build like this one. We want to win fast. We can have wins on turn 1. We can win by attacking with haste creatures if we find anger, or we can just win by comboing off with Satoru and Thassa's Oracle. MahfuzVanGogh is amazing to just push our deck a little bit further, and it is our 5th copy of Faithless Looting. A better one if we have a combination of LED and Enabler and Dredger in our starting hand. Besides that, our sideboard. Well, I would try to not use these anymore. I had some good retrospect in the past having just Force of Will and no daisies. So let's try to only include Force of Will when we really need that card against some combo decks. And we have 4 bounce spells. Ideally, we want 5 bounce spells against Leyline. It's always better to have more than 4 copies of your bounce spell. And that's why in the past I always use 4 bounce spells plus 1 Chain of Vapor or something like that. But now, since Leyline of the Void is almost non-existent in the metagame, we see all the players using Fairy Macabre, Surgical Extraction, or Unlicensed Hers instead. So we're trying to focus in less bounce spells and more answers to other threats. So this time we are back to 4 copies of Leyline of the Void, because we did have some problems to win against Reanimator because we had no Leylines, and now we have 4 of them again. And I'm back to only 3 Leyline of Sanctity. It is a great card against green decks, and if we could have 22 cards in our sideboard, life would be perfect, right? But we have to do some choices, and since I still want to test Force of Will, we are back to only 3 Leyline of Sanctity. Let's see, let's go to our Legacy League today, and I hope you enjoyed this league with me. Click the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment below if you're enjoying this series of Legacy Leagues being played with more or less the same deck, so we're trying to figure things out, how to evolve our best archetype. Let's go right now. Renting cards is the best way to play online, and you can start your journey, like me, on Mana Traders. Just use this coupon code that you can see here on this page to have an exclusive discount on your first 2 months. Now let's go back to the games. Alright, we are on the play against Gandalf the Grey. Are they playing the Wandering? Okay, this is a good hand, and my opponent plays Giganta the Wellspring. This is not so common in Legacy. It can be anything really. So this is a great hand, and I'm not sure if I will try to combo off on turn 1. Let's see if our LED will resolve, and then we do our procedure. Our Faithless Looting first, because actually with Cephalic Coliseum, having LED can be okay, it just resolves, and we will have everything next turn. As I was saying, let's play LED right now. Next turn, if our opponent did counter Faithless Looting, we could discard our hand and crack Cephalic Coliseum for a good effect on turn 2 or 3, according to what we draw. Oh, my opponent plays Savannah, and oh, Exploration. Okay, this is a Lens matchup. Yavimaya, okay. And Elvish Reclaimer. Okay, guys, we have just a turn 1 window to win this game. Before Elvish Reclaimer is active, let's dredge 4. Before a Reclaimer can find, 2 Necromibas are great, can find Ujuka Book. Luckily, we have a really good hand and we can win game 1. The only thing that can stop us from winning the game is if we don't have any other dredgers in the top 15 cards of the deck. So let's start with Breakthrough, holding priority, and I'll crack LED. And I think I will crack Cephalic Coliseum before resolving Breakthrough here, because Breakthrough is our best effect. Cephalic Coliseum is good, but Breakthrough is even better. And we have only Golgari Thug there. So Dredge, okay, we have it. Dredge 4, Dredge 6, Dredge 6 again, and we can discard everything. And if we find Anger, we can even win by attacking. Let's Dredge 6, and Dredge 6 again, and Dredge 5. No Anger yet, but we have the win here, right? We have double Dredge return, so we have the win. Let's flash back Otherworldly Gaze with our remaining 2 blue mana. We found our last Narcomoeba. We can even win by reanimating Thassa's Oracle now if we have Thassa's Oracle there, yeah. Because we have Devotion 6, Devotion to blue 6, with 4 Narcomoebas in Thassa's Oracle. This is enough to just win the game. We don't need anything else. And this is turn 2. My opponent concedes. Let's do our sideboard. Okay, unfortunately, we have only 3 copies of Leilani of Sanctity, and I will include them, of course. Force of Will is always a possibility against lands. I still kind of feel that Leilani of Sanctity and Force of Will try to use the same slot against lands. I'm not sure if we want both against lands. Let's take Ox of Argonas. Let's see if we can include everything or not. We can take 1 Breakthrough. It's a risky card, especially on the draw. We can take... Actually, I like Breakthrough here if I want to include Force of Will. So, because it's important to keep your blue cards, right? I'm not sure how to include 4 extra cards here against lands. Anger is so good. If we want forces, I would probably take Anger, but Anger is so special against lands. Okay, let's try to not use Force of Will on game 2. And let's submit here. So I could exchange 1/5 Zooting for Breakthrough here, but I already did. I already did the sideboard, so I have no... Okay, this is really good. This is special. This is truly special. So let's keep it. Putting Dredge Return on the bottom. Now I have Leyline, double LED, and looting. Our worst dredger, but we will find other dredgers, I hope. My opponent starts with Mox Diamond. And my fetch land... Oh, Soul Guide Lantern. Leilani of Sanctity will not protect us against this card. Luckily, my opponent doesn't have anything else that's scary. Only 2 cards in their hand. Narcomoeba is awful. I think I will not show LED to my opponent, because if I do, they will probably just wait for the best moment when I crack 1 of our LEDs. Okay, this is not that good. Let's see if this is enough to force my opponent to crack Soul Guide Lantern. So I'm doing what I should do, discarding Narcomoeba and Thug here, but I will not reveal LED yet. Let's see if my opponent will crack Soul Guide Lantern, and then we can try again next turn. Okay, Maze of It, no problem so far. Crop Rotation immediately. For a Wasteland. Okay, we need another land. My opponent has 1 card in their hand, but we need to dredge here, right? Okay, Narcomoeba and Cabal Therapy. Let's see if this is enough to force my opponent to crack Soul Guide Lantern. No, not yet. If I use my Cabal Therapy here, I'll have a 2/2 zombie. My opponent did crop Maze of It, so now I can attack with the 2/2. Is this enough to force my opponent to crack Soul Guide Lantern? Let's try. And I'll probably name Crop Rotation here. Or maybe Swords to Plowshares. Okay, my opponent is cracking Soul Guide Lantern, so they don't have Swords to Plowshares. My opponent is thinking a lot. I will name Crop Rotation for sure. Oh, it is another Crop Rotation. My opponent was holding it. Okay, so now let's play our LEDs. No more secrets. No more secrets. And we pass the turn. My opponent draws just a land. Okay, so things are free. Let's discard our hand here. Anger is not active because we don't have mana. But we can win the game next turn if we find looting. So Dredge 4. No looting yet. Otherworldly Gaze is interesting because we can have Poxwalkers immediately. Maybe this is already good enough. Especially because we don't have other dredgers, only Golgari Thug. Okay, 3 good dredgers. Everything to the bin. This game did seem like it would be an easy game, but Soul Guide Lantern plus Crop Rotation changed the future. But if my opponent didn't find any... Oh, just Damping Sphere. So now we can attack for 4 damage 5 turns in a row to win the game, maybe? My opponent has so many blank cards now. Any land is a blank, and we can still... Not all lands, of course. Some lands are good, but I feel like we are favored to win here. Dredge 6. Okay, another Narcomoeba. That's good. We have Cabal Therapy for the future. Let's attack. And my opponent is going down to 16. And let's remember that we still have only Caracas Excellent. We still have a Leilani of Sanctity. We dredge 6 here. Okay, Thassa's Oracle. But I don't think we're going to need Thassa's Oracle to win this game. Let's attack dealing 5 damage. Down to 11. I think I will spend one of those Cabal Therapies just to put both Golgari Grave Trolls back into my graveyard. Since we are slow dredging, it is better to have our best dredger there. Just Grave Troll. Having one extra card being dredged every turn is important. My opponent probably cannot fetch that fetch land, cannot activate that fetch land, because if they do, we need one less turn to win this game. Okay, my opponent draws. What my opponent needs here is something like Tabernacle, because we have no mana, and Tabernacle will kill our creatures. So let's dredge. Nothing that good. Nothing good, really. LED was on top. LED would be a great draw. Let's attack dealing 5 damage. Down to 6. Okay, my opponent draws. And plays Elvish Reclaimer. Okay, it's our turn. We'll dredge. Okay, we have Dread Return now. Let's see if my opponent wants to block here, because if they don't block, they cannot pay 1 life to activate the fetch land. Okay, they will fetch first. So now they need to block, unless they have something like Dried Arbor. No Surveil Land, only Savannah. Okay, my opponent will block with Elvish Reclaimer. It seems like my opponent did forget that Poxwalkers has Death Touch. Maybe as a Legacy player, sometimes you are just used to see Ikorid, it's just a 3-1, but Poxwalkers has Death Touch. I think my opponent did that play to have a 3-4 Elvish Reclaimer before blocking, but it doesn't matter. Let's have Poxwalkers back here. We can name what? I don't think my opponent has a single threat, so let's name Sticker Goblin. Okay, Boseiju. Boseiju can be used to disrupt my Leilani of Sanctity, but it is probably too late. My opponent needs something else. And we won. We did win against lands. This is huge, a huge win. Let's go to our next match. If you're enjoying my content and want to support me as a content creator, the best way of doing it is on Patreon. Being there, you can read my weekly articles and also my sideboard guides to play this and other dredge decks in other formats. I want to say thank you to all my patrons that you can see here on this page. Now, back to the games. Alright, round 2 against Macros 21. This hand is a keep, and we are on the play. You see guys, sometimes you have a good starting hand without LED. This is amazing. We have 3 good enablers, 2 lands, 1 dredger, 1 Cabal Therapy. What else can you want? So let's take this Volcanic Island and cast Faithless Looting. Okay, another dredger, another enabler. If my opponent cannot interact with us, we have a solid turn 2 win here, probably. My opponent plays Tropical Island. Delighted Halfling. So is this a Zenith deck? My opponent can have Endurance maybe. Okay, we have good cards there. Let's play our Flooded Strand and guarantee our second land. Let's take our Underground Sea. So I will test my opponent's hand with Cabal Therapy if we need after the Faithless Looting. Oh, my opponent has Force of Will. Exciting Leovold. Now I don't think my opponent has Endurance anymore, so let's go with Breakthrough. And we'll dredge 5, and 6, and 6 again, and 5. Here we discard our entire hand. We have Dredge Return, Poxwalkers, Bridge. We have Satoru. I believe we have the win here, even against a single Force of Will. So let's sacrifice Nakomoiba. We have 3 Poxwalkers coming back. Let's always yield to Bridge, and always yield to Poxwalkers. Let's name what? Another Force? Greens and Zenith. Okay, my opponent has Greens and Zenith. And now we'll reanimate Dredge Return. With Dredge Return, we'll reanimate Satoru. Okay, my opponent concedes. Let's go to our game 2. So this is a control matchup, and my opponent will probably have Endurance. Leilani of Sanctity is always a consideration, but I don't think we want to put anything in our deck. I don't think we need anything here. Our deck is probably more aggressive than our opponent's deck. And even if our opponent did counter something, did shuffle our graveyard once, we can come back. So I'll just submit. Okay, this is not a great keep. My opponent kept 7 cards. I'll also keep this because I always have the option to just discard Golgari Grave Troll and go from there. My opponent plays Flooded Strand and pass. Let's see what we draw. Another land. Let's play Manaless Dredge here, guaranteeing that we will discard our Grave Troll. Because my opponent kept 7 and did nothing. So they probably have at least 1 counter spell. So let's guarantee our Dredger, and we pass the turn. My opponent plays a second land. Oh, Nomads and Core. So this is a Nadu matchup. My opponent can win the game on turn 3. So we'll dredge 6. Okay, we don't have any other dredger there. But considering that my opponent has one of the parts of their combo, I don't think we can wait too much here. Let's play Scouting Turn, Bracket, for a Volcanic Island, and we'll cast Careful Study. I believe my opponent will just counter that. Yep. Exiling Nadu. That makes me think that my opponent has another one, because Nadu is obviously the best card in this situation. So I think my opponent has a second Nadu. I hope they don't, but I think they do. Now my opponent draws another land and Nadu. Okay, it makes sense. And now my opponent will have several triggers to draw several cards. But this is not over. My opponent needs counter spells or endurance. And so far only Ponder, Grixis Zenith, and Leovold. I'll take 1 damage. We need to have a good draw here. Fulgur's draw is not a great draw. Now I have some options. I can cast Thassa's Oracle and then cast a Cabal Therapy. I can do the same with Satoru or Thug. Or I can just crack Cephalic Coliseum. In any situation, my opponent will have the win next turn, I think. So let's try Golgari Thug. No, Golgari Thug is not a good option here. We also have Otherworldly Gaze. Golgari Thug is not the best option here. Maybe Oracle? Yeah, let's play Thassa's Oracle. I don't think we can win this game anymore, but maybe if my opponent fizzles next turn. This turn and next turn. Okay, Looting, for example, is a good card to keep for next turn. And I will cast Cabal Therapy, targeting myself to discard Grave Trolls. Okay, just resolved. So, Grave. My opponent draws more cards with the Nadu's ability. Okay, finally another land. My opponent immediately cracks it, probably to cast Brainstorm. Yeah, in this. And now with mana and more creatures, my opponent probably win the game. Okay, my opponent has a Grixis Zenith with X equals to 3. Now they get Endurance. And now my opponent draws more cards. I will still go to next turn, since we have a Faithless Looting on top. But I don't think we're ever going to resolve this Faithless Looting. Okay, my opponent passes with 2 open mana. Weird. I know they have 1 Brainstorm. So we draw Looting. Let's cast it. Okay, my opponent has Force of Negation. I will play Satoru, because why not? And guys, the reason why I didn't concede yet is just... I will concede now. It's over. But I just wanted to see a little bit more of my opponent's deck. But I think we had enough. Let's cut it at this point to save us a little bit time. And now on game 3 we will be on the play. I still think I don't want anything here. We could consider 3 copies of Line of Sanctity, just to be safer against Endurance. But being on the play, I think we have the advantage. Now we are on the play. Oh, this seems like a good hand, but I will mulligan this. Okay, this is much better. And if you think that hand was a keep on game 3 being on the play, let me know in the comments. And I can answer you later why that hand wasn't a good keep. So let's start with Scalding Tarn. We can crack it. This hand, on the other hand, is so good. We can win on turn 2 even after a Force of Will if my opponent has it. Force of Will, okay, exiling Nadu. It's a 2 for 1, we can try again next turn. My opponent draws. So again, my opponent did exile Nadu. This makes me think that they have another one, a second one. We draw. Grave Troll is excellent. We don't need to play around days in this matchup, so let's just cast Faithless Looting immediately. My opponent has a Tundra and Brainstorm. Trying to find another counter spell, probably. Okay, Faithless Looting will resolve or not? Oh, my opponent has Force of Negation. And now what? I think I'll just cast a Breakthrough here. We can crack Cephalic Coliseum next turn. Let's do it. Okay, we can discard everything. We even have Satoru, Poxwalkers, and Cabal Therapy, which is good. And now it's my opponent's turn. Double Force, a Surveil land now. My opponent doesn't want Veil of Summer, and now they play Nomads and Core. Notably, no green mana yet. So let's dredge 6. Nakomiba enters the battlefield. We have a Cabal Therapy there. Let's crack Cephalic Coliseum. I don't think my opponent has Endurance. So we'll dredge 6. And 5. Another Dredger, please. Yeah, dredge 6. Okay, we have Anger, we have Dredge Return, we have Breach, we have Satoru. We probably have the win here. We have one last Cabal Therapy, no, 2 Cabal Therapies, so I believe we have the win. Let's use one of them. Now we have 2 Bridges and 1 Poxwalkers. And we'll name Nadu. Yeah, my opponent has Nadu and Grixis Zenith, but no green mana yet. Now we don't need to take that Grixis Zenith, we can just cast Dredge Return, reanimating Satoru. Let's sacrifice 3 creatures and gain 4 more zombies. Poxwalkers enters the battlefield again. I love this combo so much. Not only because I did create it, but because it's so much fun. Nakomiba enters the battlefield, triggering Satoru. We'll dredge again. Now we have triple Cabal Therapy. Let's use them. Now 2 Poxwalkers enters the battlefield. Satoru triggers for each one of them. We can dredge our entire deck. And my opponent did concede the match. Okay, another win. This time using Satoru as our threat. Let's go to our next match. Okay, we are on the draw this time. And my opponent starts. So we have a good hand here. Narcomoeba is not good, but all of the other cards are excellent. It seems like a tempo deck. Oh, we draw another Narcomoeba. That's bad. That's so bad. But we can win with Poxwalkers, right? I think I will take a basic island immediately, so my opponent doesn't play with Stifle. Let's play ADD. Okay, so far so good. Careful study. Without cracking in response, because I don't think we have the luxury here trying to win. My opponent can just counter my careful study and we will have nothing. Let's see if this resolves. Okay, my opponent cracks Flooded Strand in response. If their answer is Daze, I will probably pay for it. Brainstorm, okay. And now what? It is Daze. Okay, in this case, let's crack for blue mana and pay 1 blue mana. Let's see if my opponent wants to counter this with Force of Will. No. So we did it. Let's dredge 5, dredge 6, and now I'll cast Otherworldly Gaze. It will resolve. Poxwalkers enters the battlefield. We have a Cabal Therapy, Satoru, Dread Return, and 1 bridge. We need something extra. Okay, Cephalic Coliseum for next turn. Do I cast Cabal Therapy here? Actually, we have Satoru and double therapy here, so we can reanimate Satoru. But we don't have a guarantee win. On turn 2, we will win. But now, I don't think we have the win. So let's name what? Ponder? Okay, my opponent has 1 Ponder. And now let's name something extra. It is Bolt or Fatal Push. Probably Push, because my opponents don't have red mana yet. Fatal Push. And now we can reanimate Satoru. This way we will guarantee that we have Satoru next turn. And we will draw our Cephalic Coliseum now. I could try to win the game now, but since we have 2 less Narcomoebas and we already did use some therapies, it is probably wiser to just draw our Cephalic Coliseum. And now we'll probably win the game next turn. Let's pass. My opponent has only Underground Sea and nothing else. Why my opponent didn't crack Mishra's Bubble? I believe this was a mistake. Now they play Underground Sea, another bubble, cracks 1, and the other one. And I think this is, and I say I think this is a mistake because if my opponent had red mana, they could get rid of Satoru. Okay, my opponent draws 2 extra cards, and we will dredge. Narcomoeba will trigger Satoru, and Satoru triggers, we'll dredge 6. We have Poxwalkers, Therapy, Bridge, yeah, we have the win. Thassa's Oracle is already there. I think I can cast a Cabal Therapy previously here, just to be safe, but I don't think my opponent has anything, but just to be sure, we can take that Murktide because it's a blue card. Or we can attack first. Let's attack. We don't have Anger anymore, so we can attack. We don't have Anger at our disposal, I mean, because we don't have mountains this game. And now we'll cast Cabal Therapy, targeting my opponent, sacrificing Poxwalkers. Satoru will trigger twice. Maybe we don't need Cephalic Coliseum to win anymore, just Satoru. And now we'll dredge. We found another Dread Return, we'll dredge again. We even have Ox of Agonas there, so let's name Murktide. Okay, double Psychic Frog. And now we have multiple ways to win the game. So let's choose one of them. I'll crack Cephalic Coliseum to dredge my entire deck. We can dredge 5, 4, and 4. Another Narcomoeba, this time we'll say no, because if we say yes and Narcomoeba enters the battlefield, we will lose the game. We cannot lose the game by decking ourselves. So no, I don't need another illusion. I need more reality. So let's reanimate. Let's return. Dread Return. Thassa's Oracle, sacrificing 3 creatures, including Satoru. And you know what that means? Thassa's Oracle for the win, on turn 2, against Daze. And this was only possible because of Satoru. Oracle for the win. We did see, guys, this was a win with ADD plus Otherworldly Gaze, because our careful study would be countered. It wasn't because we had Lion's Eye Diamond, but this is a win because of the synergy of our great cards, not only because of one of them. We'll just submit the deck back. I don't think we need any changes considering our sideboard. We don't think to include anything against Tempo. Okay, this is not that amazing. We need something else here, but unless my opponent has Force of Negation, this Faithless Looting can be cast twice with this hand. And we have ADD. Even Ox of Agonas can be cast on turn 2 with some luck. So I'll keep this. My opponent kept 6 cards. Caught in turn and pass. Okay, Breakthrough is excellent. Let's test our opponent's hand with ADD. Secretly, in this situation, I want my opponent to counter my ADD. I prefer to resolve Faithless Looting, but my opponent don't know that. Consign to memory. Okay. Now let's try to resolve Faithless Looting. Did resolve. Excellent. So we'll discard Grave Troll and I think Ox. Poxwalkers is probably the right choice, but I don't think it will... Just in case my opponent has Fairy Macabre, for example. I prefer to have Ox exiled instead of Poxwalkers. My opponent plays Underground Sea. Is this Frog time? Okay, my opponent plays Darcy and NeuHier. My opponent did wait a little bit to cast those creatures, so maybe they have another option in their hand. Let's dredge 6 here. Okay, we have one other dredger. I think my opponent has at least one extra counterspell, maybe Daze, maybe something else. So I'm not sure if I just want to break through here. I don't feel this is the safest option. If we cast Ox of Agonas and it resolved, this is amazing. But if this just didn't resolve, that's actually great, because next turn we have Breakthrough and even looting. Another option is going with Otherworldly Gaze. Otherworldly Gaze will immediately return Poxwalkers, and we have one Cabal Therapy there. We have so many good options here. Which one is the better? Okay, let's go with Otherworldly Gaze, because this Breakthrough wants to be resolved. Okay, just resolved, and now we have another looting on top. Great, great, great. Let's cast Cabal Therapy targeting my opponent. Do I really want to do that? Let's do it, because now I can be safer next turn according to what we see. We know that we have another looting, so let's name Force of Will. Another Consign to Memory and Orcish Bowmasters. That's not gonna do it. We have the win next turn, 100% guarantee, unless my opponent draws something really good here against us. Just a single Force of Will, it's not enough. Orcish Bowmasters, not enough. This is good enough. Okay, I'm being punished for waiting a little bit too long. But we have ways to rebuild our graveyard immediately. This is interesting, because my opponent probably wants to hold Consign to Memory, but at the same time they want to crack Spellbomb. Okay, they are doing it immediately, and without paying to draw an extra card. So my opponent wants to hold Consign to Memory. That's completely fine, and we're gonna win this. So let's start with Faithless Looting. We know our opponent's hand. They have nothing. Oh, even Cabal Therapy? Are you kidding me? Okay. Can't discard anything here, really. Now let's take that Consign to Memory from my opponent's hand. Consign to Memory. Yep. And now we resolve Breakthrough. We need to change some dredgers, but with Golgari Withdrawal this is easier than usual. We'll dredge 6. Oh, we couldn't. But I do think we have enough to win the game anyways. Not immediately, but with our threats. We have another Poxwalkers there. Narcomoeba is a great blocker. And 2 Cabal Therapies. Let's attack first. And now let's take that Orcish Bowmasters. So we are ahead in this race. We have 9 points of damage coming next turn. My opponent has 7, but we have blockers. So Orcish Bowmasters. And now my opponent is Hellbent. Do I cast that extra Cabal Therapy? I don't think so. Or maybe I do. Okay, 1 extra zombie, why not? I don't think we're gonna win this with our combo anymore. So 1 extra zombie to really push damage next turn. It doesn't matter, +2 mace. And now we pass a turn. That Darcy needs to attack. I can block with Narcomoeba, we have 1 extra zombie. Oh, my opponent wants to attack with NeuHier. I think we can just absorb some damage here, because we don't have lethal exactly. So let's just absorb the damage. Absorb the damage. Another NeuHier, okay. And we can even flashback Faithless Looting. We have 3 lands. Narcomoeba is an excellent card. Now what? Do I attack first or after? Let's resolve this Faithless Looting immediately. We'll dredge 5 and 6. We found another Dredge Return there. Another Breach. And Satoru. We still have our 2 copies of Dredge Return in our deck. One in our graveyard and the other one in our deck. So I think we have the win here. It doesn't matter if my opponent wants to block with NeuHier. Let's attack first. Okay, they will block, so we lose our bridges. But that's fine. That's completely fine. Because now we are sure that we cannot lose the game next turn. My opponent don't have enough threats. And we do have. Let's return Satoru. Please, Satoru, come back and save us. I can even sacrifice Narcomoeba, it doesn't matter, actually. So Satoru enters the battlefield. We'll dredge 6. We did find another Dredge Return. Let's cast Cabal Therapy just to... I'll sacrifice Zombie here because I want to have exactly 0 cards in our deck when I return Thassa's Oracle to the game. So dredge 5. I'll say no to this Narcomoeba. And okay, my opponent concedes. And we won another match, guys. We are in fire. On fire. Okay, now we have 2 more matches to go, and so far 3. Oh, let's do it. Alright, round 4 against ferrarix. And we are on the play. This is a good hand. This could even be a turn 1 if we find Faithless Looting with this Otherworldly Gaze. We keep it. But let's test our opponent's hand as usual, right? So LED. Okay, everything is resolving, LED. And now it's Scalding Tarn. And let's crack it for a Volcanic Island. Otherworldly Gaze. Okay, no Faithless Looting, but we have a great card for next turn. Careful Study is great. So let's keep it on top. And we'll pass. Now it's my opponent's turn. They draw Verdant Catacombs. Is this a green deck? Okay, Forest. Green Sun Zenith. Okay, guys, danger, danger. Dried Arbor. And now my opponent passes the turn. My opponent's playing slowly, which makes me think that maybe they have something like Endurance. I hope they don't, but maybe. Careful Studies or draw for the turn. Now I have some options here. I can go for it, ignoring Endurance completely. Probably with this hand we should do it, right? Because next turn my opponent will have 3 mana at their disposal. So probably we just try to win this game immediately. Okay, it just resolved. We'll dredge 6. Have an Amoeba. We dredge 5. We'll discard both. We have Anger. But this is just too easy. My opponent is waiting a little bit on each decision. Okay, here he goes. Here it comes. Endurance. My opponent did exile Craterhoof Behemoth. So no haste ending for them. Let's use our remaining mana to cast Otherworldly Gaze to keep something good on top. Okay, nothing. We don't want anything, any of those cards, right? So let's put everything into our graveyard. So they will just going to be shuffled back on the bottom of our deck. And now we need something good naturally. My bridge got exiled because of Endurance trigger. Oh. Okay, another land for our opponent, Verdant Catacombs. They crack it. Bye-bye you. Oh, White of the Reliquary. My opponent probably has Bojuka Bock in their deck. So we have a single turn to win this game without cards in our hand. Can we do it? We will draw. Faithless Looting. Faithless Looting can win us the game if we find Dredger with it. It's our only chance really, because my opponent has a great creature. Okay, we couldn't do it. Because if we did find something there, we could flashback it immediately with LED and maybe somehow, with a little bit of luck, win the game. Or at least have some creatures on board. But now my opponent can hold White of the Reliquary forever. Let's see what else they have. A Natural Warder. Okay, so my opponent can win the game almost immediately. This is probably an Atraxa. Yep. And what else my opponent has? Yeah, this seems like a Cradle Control deck with Springheart Nantuko as a win condition, a different win condition. Okay, my opponent did choose only one creature, but Nantuko is also an enchantment. So this was probably a mistake. They took only 2 cards from Atraxa. And now it's our turn. We will draw another looting. Let's do it. Unless my opponent somehow, for some reason, don't have... Okay, nothing good. Yeah, we can concede here. We will not win this. We can just concede. And this would be a match when you would like to have 4 copies of Leyline of Sanctity, because they are really good in this matchup. Being on the play, I probably want to keep my strategy clean without taking too much from my deck. Again, Force of Will is a card that I like against this deck, but I don't think we have enough spots to be exchanged here. We cannot include 7 cards against Cradle Control, I think. So probably just take Otherworldly Gaze, all of them. I like Otherworldly Gaze. I just, being on the play, I think we... Yeah, let's submit with 3 ley lines instead of 3 gazes. We still have great enablers, or faster enablers, and both of our Dread Return paths, and we are keeping all of our threats. Now we are on the play. Okay, this is good. We can keep it. We can even start with Cabal Therapy, a blind Cabal Therapy targeting our opponent, and then repeat it with Nakomiba on turn 2 if they really have something scary here. There. My opponent kept 7. I will start with Cabal Therapy here. I'm not sure if I will name Endurance or Green Sun Zenith. Even Average Reclaimer could be a good name. Let's try Endurance. Okay, no Endurance. My opponent kept Once Upon a Time and Scavenging Ooze. Let's play LED. I don't think my opponent has Thoughtseize, but just in case, let's play LED immediately. Scavenging Ooze. This is a slow hand for our opponent because they don't have black mana yet. So they probably want black mana with this Once Upon a Time. Or Endurance. Both are fine. Okay, my opponent did find Endurance. So we do need to take that Endurance from my opponent's hand. We cannot go for it here. So let's take a Volcanic Island. Let's be patient. And then next turn we will go 1 card deeper. Waiting 1 more turn to find our Dredgers and maybe win the game with 6 mana. So Endurance. Okay, my opponent has an Atraxa in their hand. Now it is interesting because if my opponent don't have another land, they need to commit their Talon Gates of Mandara. Because Cradle cannot step for mana. Oh, my opponent chose to play Dried Arbor instead. Okay. Going the slowest road. We draw. Amoeba, come on, deck. Our worst draw in our entire deck. But okay, let's try to do something good with this Faithless Looting. Come on. It's now or never. Foxwalkers, Amoeba, another LED. My opponents still don't have immediate black mana available. They need to cast Talon Gates of Madara to have black mana. So let's play Satoru. And I will cast this looting here, because now we will draw something with Satoru. We draw one card. Maybe it's the card we need. It's a Line of Sanctity. Cabal Therapy. Oh, Cabal Therapy is great, because Cabal Therapy will draw us. We can keep Careful Study in our hand for next turn, and now we can take one of our opponent's cards. And we will draw an extra card. Grave Troll, excellent for next turn. So we are doing, guys. Satoru is great. Satoru is amazing, and I never had a doubt about it. So let's take Scavenging Ooze. Natural Warder, and now we will just pass the turn, right? Because even if my opponent can play White of the Reliquary, they cannot activate next turn, and we can win with Careful Study, Grave Troll, and LED. Okay, my opponent finds an Elvish Reclaimer. It is also a slow card at this point. My opponent needed something with an immediate resolution. Elvish Reclaimer needs to wait one more turn to do something. Okay, my opponent finally decides to play their land. Up to one target creature faces out. They don't need to choose any creature here, right? But they will probably target Elvish Reclaimer just to protect it. And now my opponent passes. It's our turn to win the game. It's ours to lose here. We need to win now. Let's draw. Stink with Imp. Another Dredger is actually good. So we will cast Careful Study, holding priority. Discarding our hand. Red mana. We have 5 mana to work on this turn. We will dredge 6 and 5. And we did find Faithless Looting, Foxwalkers, Double Bridge, Dredge Return. With Satoru, this is probably win. Even with 30 cards remaining in our deck, Satoru does the best Descana impression. We can mill our entire deck with Satoru immediately. Probably. Satoru triggers. We will dredge 6. Another Foxwalker's already there. We will dredge 6 and 6. Ox is there. Now we can discard both Trolls. Narcomoeba enters. And it triggers Satoru. We'll dredge 6 again. Another Narcomoeba. We have the win. Let's check our sideboard. Yeah, we have 2 Dredge Return in our deck. We just took 3 Otherworldly Gaze. Narcomoeba enters. Satoru triggers. And we dredge 6. And now we can win. Dread returning Thassa's Oracle. And another win with our last combo. We have multiple zombies, all of them with haste. They would not be lethal, but Thassa's Oracle is lethal. Okay, we won game 2. Let's prepare our deck for game 3. Again, same thing. I would like to include forces. Can we do it without harming too much our deck and keeping the high count of blue spells? It is difficult because I chose to side out 3 copies of Otherworldly Gaze. So if I want to include Force of Will, I will probably re-include Otherworldly Gaze. But Otherworldly Gaze is not that great in this matchup. Of course, I can just try to be lucky and have Force of Will plus another blue card, even with a low blue spells count. But I think I'll just submit the deck back again. Okay, this is a mulligan on game 3 on the draw. Whoa, 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 this is a keep. We have protection, we have an enabler, we have our best dredger. We need something extra to win this game, because just a single Line of Sanctity will not hold forever. But luckily, we'll draw 3 cards, and luckily we will win the game. My opponent has a Green Sun for 0. Let's remember my opponent has Scavenging Ooze, which is a good target, good creature to target our spells or cards in our graveyard. So we did draw just another Dredger, which is good. I'm not complaining, but I want Cephalic Coliseum, Lives of Diamond, Breakthrough, Careful Study, something extra here. Okay, LED and second land, perfect. So next turn we can even cast Cabal Therapy. I think I'll hold this one more turn. We could try to just crack LED and keep going, but I think this is just not a good evaluation of our resources. Just dredging 10 more cards will not win the game. Not guaranteed. My opponent taps 2 green mana. I talked about red mana because I'm already thinking about my juicy Faithless Looting. Oh, non-Tuco. Okay, this is really scary because now my opponent can have copies of Arbors. Hope they cannot find Gaia's Cradle. Because if they do, they can tap for mana, much mana. And then each Arbor is a land, and then it will trigger non-Tuco. I did lost some matchups last month in situations like this. It seems too narrow, but now our looting and dredger need to be on point. Need to find everything we want. Oh, what? Oh, my opponents had Fairy Macabre. Okay. Fairy, huh? Another deck playing Fairy. Well, at least we have another Dredger in our hand now. Unless my opponent has a second Fairy Macabre in their hand, right? So what? Well, we can search for traps here. We can take an Underground Sea and cast Cabal Therapy targeting my opponent, naming Fairy Macabre again. Because targeting us with Stinkweed Imp is not relevant here. Because we will crack LED to cast Faithless Looting, so we will discard our hand already. So let's take this opportunity to see my opponent's hand. Green Sun Zenith and Fairy Macabre are probably my choices here. Let's name Green Sun Zenith. Okay, nothing that scary. White of the Reliquary is a good card, but maybe you can hit Narcomoeba now. So discard our hand, 3 red mana, we'll dredge 5. Okay, Narcomoeba, great. Poxwalkers maybe? Dredge 5. 2 Poxwalkers, great. No bridges and no good targets for Dredge Return. If we had Satoru here, we could even win the game immediately. So double Poxwalkers entering the battlefield. Let's take that White of the Reliquary. White of the Reliquary. And that's really good because now my opponent has an useless Thoughtseize and a land. I could cast Dredge Return just to take 1 shoot fire. That's not good. And I think we can hold that Cabal Therapy just in case we find our Satoru. What I don't want to see here is another Green Sun Zenith for our opponent, which will be brutal. Or, okay, my opponent just plays Dryad Arbor. Or some ways to find Gaia's Cradle. Because Cradle plus Nantuko can fill the battlefield with creatures pretty fast. My opponent pays the mana here, so they will have another Dryad Arbor. It is better to have Arbors instead of insect tokens, right? And another token, okay. Because Arbor is another land, so my opponent can have both. And now my opponent attacks, and I will not block. Matches like this are so tense. Sometimes I feel like I should play Legacy Leagues just having some rest between rounds instead of playing 5 matches in a row because... Okay, let's dredge 5. Narcomoeba enters the battlefield. Where are Satoru? We want Satoru. Okay, we have only 1 Satoru in this build, you cannot complain. Now we have nothing, right? I don't think I want to attack with Poxwalkers here. Even Narcomoeba can stay on defense. We will not win this game by attacking, definitely. My opponent has many blockers and we'll probably have more soon. Oh no, Gaia's Cradle. Okay. So now my opponent can tap that for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6. So my opponent will gain what? 3 extra Dryad Arbors this turn? 1, 2, 3. No more, because they have untapped Arbors. Yeah? They can have 5 more creatures this turn. And 7 or 8 next turn. And so on. That's so scary, guys. We can lose this game after finding a good hand, but Fairy Macabre did slow us for a single turn. We would be a little bit better. Of course, we cannot complain. We did our thing, but we even have Dredge Return in our deck, in our graveyard. We just need to find something to reanimate, to return. We cannot return a 1-2 or a 1-1. We need to return something better than that. Our opponent starts attacking with their tokens, which is really scary. I will not block yet, because I have hopes. And you see now, this position is interesting, because now we don't have Otherworldly Gaze anymore in our deck. I did sideboard all of them. So we have 2 lands there, but we cannot do anything with them. So maybe Otherworldly Gaze is not the best card to take from our deck in situations like this. Of course, we did prioritize our fast game configurations, our fast starting hands. And we did find LED, Enabler, Dredger, and Leyline. But in situations like this, Otherworldly Gaze shines. Last turn, for example, we could cast Otherworldly Gaze and keep Cephalic Elysium on top. You see Cephalic Elysium there? Okay, now let's think. I cannot attack. I think I just need to hold. We could cast a Dredge Return here just to reanimate a Thassa's Oracle and to have some value from it. And some zombies, since now we have one bridge. But we will not going to win this race. My opponent will have more creatures than us. My opponent cannot win the game next turn. So I think I'll just pass here. Let's wait 1 more turn. Maybe next turn we can find Satoru to win the game. Now my opponent draws. Okay, another land, a fetch land. My opponent will get so many Dryads. Okay, let's talk about the silver lining in this situation. My opponent is tapping all of their Arbors to create new ones. So that probably means that they will not attack this turn. Or if they attack, will be only with their insect tokens. My opponent is just trying to fill the battlefield with Arbors, enough Arbors to win in a single shot, probably. So that means that we have 1 more turn to find something good in our graveyard. It almost makes me think that we should have a natural draw here and maybe be lucky with our last copy of Breakthrough or maybe another looting or something extra. because just dredging 5, I'm not sure if we can deal with everything here. We'll definitely not win by attacking. We need to win returning Thassa's Oracle to the game. My opponent finally cracks Wooded Foothills. And now, after this turn, my opponent will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 more creatures. Oh, my opponent is holding something. They could tap to have 1 extra Arbor, but they didn't. My opponent is holding something with green and black mana. Maybe it's an Endurance? My opponent has 3 mana. Well, let's dredge. Let's dredge. If we don't dredge, we are lost. Dredge 5. Okay, another dredge return. We have Faithless Looting. We cannot flashback it. We have only 2 mana. We have Cabal Therapy. We cannot win. We cannot win here. And my opponent will probably win just by attacking. They have enough creatures to win here. We could reanimate here. We could return Thassa's Oracle as a good blocker. And we'll have many more zombies to block. But that's all. My opponent already have lethal. I'm thinking about returning Thassa's Oracle to the game. Just to see our top. Maybe scare my opponent a little bit. They maybe didn't notice that we have only dredgers in our hand. Let's attack with 1 Nakomoiba because I will sacrifice it. But we are already lost here. This is a lost position. Okay, Nakomoiba is connecting. My opponent is pausing every time, so I think they have something. Maybe they have Endurance. Endurance could block Nakomoiba, maybe. And now we will cast Dredge Return, getting Oracle back, sacrificing Nakomoiba and 2 Poxwalkers. So Poxwalkers enters the battlefield again, and we'll have 3 zombie tokens. Okay, my opponent did pause for a long time here. Do they have another Fairy Macabre? If they do, is double game over. Okay, Grixis triggers are resolving, and Poxwalkers enters the battlefield, and other Poxwalkers enters the battlefield. Thassa's Oracle also enters the battlefield. We have Devotion 3, so we can look on top of our library. What? Assassin's Trophy? Targeting Oracle? Why? Okay, now we can even win another zombie. Do we still have basic islands? Okay, guys, what? We still have this trigger to resolve, and now we can even flashback Faithless Looting. We don't want that Scalding Tarn. Okay, I'm in shock. Why my opponent did do that? Okay, now we have this Faithless Looting to be cast. We could cast Cabal Therapy targeting ourselves to have triple Stinkweed Imp in the graveyard. We need more blockers here. If we cannot find more blockers, we will lose. My opponent has 22 creatures. We need 8 blockers. We already have 5. If I cast Cabal Therapy targeting myself to put Stinkweed Imps in the graveyard, I will have 1 more. But I don't think we can have this luxury. We need to be a little bit lucky here with our Dredge 4. Dredge 4 and Dredge 4 again. Another Therapy is good. Okay, and Grave Troll finally. And another Narco. Guys, maybe we can hold this for another turn. My opponent messed up targeting my Thassa's Oracle with Assassin's Trophy. I'm not sure what they did think, but now we have a chance of winning the game next turn. We can find another Faithless Looting, for example, and win the game next turn, reanimating Thassa's Oracle again. Okay, I'm doing the math here. We already have 6 creatures. We need 2 more to hold. So we have double Cabal Therapy. Let's take that Thoughtseize from my opponent's hand. We don't need to, right? We can let them have whatever they want. But now we can have 8 blockers. So I'll name Thoughtseize, 1 less card in my opponent's hand. Yep. Do I want something from my hand in the graveyard? I don't think so. Just doing the math again. 2, 3. Yeah, and we need 8 blockers. So I don't need to cast that Dredge Return. Just 1 extra Cabal Therapy to have 1 more blocker. And then my opponent cannot win the game next turn. But they can win the game in 2 turns from now. So it doesn't matter too much what to name. My opponent is Hellbent. And guys, this is an important lesson here. Never give up, never surrender. Sometimes you cannot win the game, but your opponent still can lose. Sometimes it just happens. I did mistakes in the past that cost me games. It just happens. Sometimes you are distracted, sometimes you do the wrong choice. My opponent did thought for a long time about that play. For some reason they thought it was a good play, but sometimes we just got wrong. Now if my opponent attacks with everyone, it all depends if my opponent has another land in their hand or not. If this is not a land, if this is just a creature, my opponent cannot attack here because okay, my opponent is attacking. Okay, let's block. Did I mess up? Let's block the creature with Nantuko attached. And now we can block more and more other arbors. Our bridge will get exiled, but we'll have 2 more zombies from our Nakomoibas. Okay, what I did wrong with that? Oh no, I have 2 zombies blocking the same creature. Be careful to not lose the game, Mahfuz. Be careful. And now we'll kill some arbors. I did my math. I think I'm going to 1 life. 14 down to 1, exactly. And now let's order those triggers so we can have some zombies, even if my bridges got exiled. And to win the game this turn, we need to reveal 1 Faithless Looting, since now we have 3 lands. Maybe my opponent forgot that we also play with basic lands. We even have lethal on board. My opponent needs blockers. They will have Nantuko. Yeah, we don't have lethal because my opponent has a blocker. So let's win with Thastorko. Maybe. My opponent still has an unknown card. Let's dredge here. Dredge 6. Okay, we have Faithless Looting there. It was our last card. We can win this, guys. We can win this. This was an unwinnable matchup. And we can win. Faithless Looting will dredge. Dredge 6, draw 1. Yeah, dredge 6, draw 1. We have another Poxwalkers there. And we found another bridge this turn. We can try reanimate Thassa's Oracle immediately. But what if my opponent has something, right? Like an Endurance, for example. I hope they don't. I sincerely hope they don't. Because if they do have, this Cabal Therapy is useless. So I truly hope they don't have anything else. Okay, they are tapping for mana. Oh no, 50 mana. Oh, my opponent has Endurance. Oh, but they cannot target us. I'm crazy. I'm just crazy. I'm sorry, guys. I'm tired. We have Leilani of Sanctity. My opponent cannot target us. So my opponent is just showing their Endurance. So they did target themselves. For a moment, I was just scared. That something extra could happen. Okay. Thassa's Oracle enters the battlefield and win the game. GG. I never expected to win such a game. This was epic. This was such an epic match. Now let's get a little bit of rest, a glass of water, something, and try to win our final match in just a couple of minutes. Final round against Adorno 666. We are on the play with a medium bad hand. Okay, this could be a turn 1. But it is so scary because a single Force of will ruin everything. Can we keep it? I think we can. It will work? I'm not sure. Let's see. We are on the play. My opponent kept 7 cards. No, my opponent is also mulliganing. Okay, my opponent kept 6. Let's test my opponent's hand with LDT, Defiled Coliseum. And then we'll hold priority, casting Breakthrough. We discard our hand. We'll dredge for it. It is working. Nothing good there. At least we have lootings to try again. If it's looting, come on, looting. We'll dredge 4 and 5. Okay, unfortunately, no Narcomoebas. We did our thing, but unfortunately, no Narcomoebas on the top 22 cards of our deck. And now it's my opponent's turn. Underground Sea, Black Mana, Dark Ritual. Oh no, it is Doomsday. Oh, it is Doomsday. Okay, now if we want a chance to win this, my opponent cannot have Street Wraith or something like that in their hand. And we must draw a land. It's our single way to win this game. Or maybe just dredging 5 and finding Narcomoeba, Bridge, Foxwalkers. We already have Satoru. And dredge return. This is another option. But maybe my opponent has the win this turn. Hopefully they don't. Okay, my opponent chooses their top 5 cards. They have Psychic Frog, Tameo. They have a Temple package. So it is an alternative way to win the game if the Doomsday play. Oh, my opponent had Street Wraith. So now they win, right? We had a turn 1 win, but our deck did betray us. And now my opponent will win the game. I cannot complain. Sometimes it happens to everyone. We already had a win against Doomsday in this series. Now my opponent will cast Brainstorm. Probably they will have LED plus draw spell, draw effect, discard LED. Yeah, another Street Wraith, yeah. So they can discard LED in response, having 3 blue mana to cast Thassa's Oracle from their hand. Okay, my opponent did win. Now we must do something better on game 2. Now we don't have daisies anymore. So we must trust in Force of Will. Being on the play though, sometimes you just feel that we don't need that much. But I will try to include forces here. Let's take Ox, let's take 1 Foxwalkers. I'll try to keep my blue spells in my deck. That's why I'm taking Ox of Agonas instead of Satoru. Do I? Again, sometimes I feel that being on the play, right? I would like to have days here. Let's try to win game 2 being on the play without any changes. And then in game 3, we include forces. You probably noticed that I don't like to do changes after sideboarding with this configuration. I think this main deck is just too good to be exchanging cards. This is also a mulligan. Oh, no, deck. Not like this. Okay, this is our best 4. This is our best hand, even on 4, compared to the others. Now we can keep LED, Otherworldly Gaze, Treasure, and Land. Let's test our opponent's hand with LED. They kept 7 cards. Okay, it just resolved. Maybe my opponent has another turn 1. In that case, we must play this Otherworldly Gaze immediately. So let's take Volcanic Island here. Okay, just resolved. We have Looting and Breakthrough for next turn. Or maybe for this turn. Can we wait one more turn and keep Breakthrough on top? I don't think so. My opponent kept 7 cards and they are not doing a single thing. They probably have a turn 1 combo again. I will keep a Breakthrough on top just in case my opponent counters my Faithless Looting now. Yeah, I think this is smarter. We will try to resolve this looting, and if my opponent counters it, we have a Breakthrough on top. Okay, my opponent is contemplating... Okay, no counters. So Dredge 6 and Dredge 4. Narcomoeba, please. Cabal Therapy. Okay, we did hit Narcomoeba, but no Cabal Therapy. Okay, we did what we could do on 4 cards. Now, unfortunately, my opponent will play... Hopefully, they have a turn 2, not a turn 1. So we can still find something. Flooded Strand. They crack it. Underground Sea. Oh, Grafdigger's Cage. Okay, we didn't lose the game. But to win the game, it will be harder. We have a Cabal Therapy. Let's attack dealing 1 damage. Grafdigger's Cage, huh? Down to 18. And now we need to draw lands. And Narcomoebas. Okay, my opponent did find something. Doughty Voidwalker. Oh, come on, guys. Cage and Doughty Voidwalker. Why? Okay, my opponent probably thinks they need too much of Graveyard Hate yet. We will not come back from this, guys. We cannot win. We have Poxwalkers there, but we have Gazes. We could return Poxwalkers if we did find another land. Maybe this is our only hope. We can return Poxwalkers, but my opponent will still have the advantage. Unless they harm themselves, right? If they try to go for the combo and will draw exactly Cephalic Coliseum to target them. My opponent shuffle their library with Ponder. And Spellbomb, no. Okay, it's a hat trick. Cage, Spellbomb, and Doughty Voidwalker. Let's consider. Let's go out of this nightmare. Please. Please. Okay, guys, almost there. Again, another 4-1 in a row. It's the 3rd 4-1 in a row. So we are 12-3 with this deck so far. No trophies, but we are not here for the trophies solely, right? We are here to try to understand our deck and get better. So let's return to our deck and talk a little bit about it and prepare our field to our next league tomorrow. Okay, guys, another day, another 4-1, which makes me think that our 60 main deck cards are just working, right? Because we have 80 win rate percentage after 3 leagues. Of course, it's a small amount of games yet, but we can understand that our deck is working, and maybe we can exchange some cards to try new things here. But the thing is still with the sideboard. We did win a match against the green deck because of the Line of Sanctity. I would love to have the 4th one here. Force of Will. We could have Force of Will in our last match. I tried something better, but we had a terrible mulligan to 4. We could still win that game. It was almost a miracle. And I kind of want to reinclude another 5th bounce spell in case we do find an opponent using Leyline of the Void, because just 4 bounce spells, not the best. Sometimes your opponent will not have Leyline of the Void, but sometimes they do have. So I'm considering here, if things that I'm considering, I think about it, and tomorrow I'll come back. But I'm thinking about trying to just take Force of Will from the deck entirely and having 4 Leylines each, and maybe we could try other free counterspell, maybe Mindbreak Trap, or maybe some other free effects like Street Wraith. But since we now are an LED deck in our hearts, at least this week, that we're trying to reboost Satoru Dredge, this is already 3.2, and everything is working in the main deck. Sometimes I feel like Anger is not that good enough, but every time I think about removing Anger, we win a game because of Anger, because my opponent had something else. So so far, I feel good about the main deck, 60 cards. But maybe Forces are just weak in this configuration. Maybe we want something else, something extra instead of Forces. If I take Forces from the deck, from the sideboard, I could re-include the 4th Line of Sanctity, maybe the 5th bounce spell, and maybe 2 other cards. Maybe New Rods. I don't know. I'm not sure. What do you think? What would you include in the sideboard instead of Force of Will? Or maybe you feel Force of Will is important and you just want to have more blue cards again, like Blue Dredge does. I hope you did enjoy this league with me. Click the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment below. And tomorrow, we'll be back with another Legacy League, probably Turbo Satoru Dredge 3.3. Let's keep evolving our best and our beloved archetype and legacy. See you soon. Bye.